I healed myself of my chronic headaches with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I am eternally grateful for that. And in this video, I would like to share this story with you and hopefully inspire at least one of you to believe in possibility when sometimes you end up not believing anymore. When I was about 21, I started to receive these bad headaches. There would be like tension around my head, and sometimes they would get very bad. And they gradually started to increase. And at a certain point, I just knew I had full days where I had to lay in bed, or the only thing I could handle was the shower because it gave a little bit of relief. And painkillers were not working, and many things were not working. And I had to alter my life because I had to cancel social events. I had to really plan my productive days at the days where I was headache free. And it was not a great situation. I sometimes felt trapped in a body that was constantly aching when I really, what I wanted to do was go out and explore the world and live. So that was definitely hard. I saw several doctors and several holistic practitioners in that time, but none of them were able to really help me. Some gave short term relief, but nothing changed. And in a way, after I think a few years, I kind of gave up. At that time, I was building up my business. And I remember that there were some days where I just felt headache free and I would just want to do 100 things at the time because I felt like I have to grasp this moment. And it was kind of stressful to not know before you would wake up if this day would be, useless or you would use it for 100 things. So it was hard to plan your life. It was hard to plan every day. It wasn't easy and it wasn't fun. And I wouldn't want this for anyone to experience this. So I was working on personal development because I felt that in a way I had to, become greater than this. And at an event, someone told me, you should really read the books of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I had no clue who Dr. Joe Dispenza was. I had never heard of him before, but I felt at that moment that I should take this serious. And that night, I ordered the books. And once I started reading them, I just couldn't stop. They were the first thing ever that totally clicked within me because I was a science girl. I was, not into the woohoo spiritual stuff or maybe like sneak peeks into it, but not completely believing it. And all of a sudden, the world of energy and all this spiritual, beautiful things got matched with the world of science and rational thinking, which I kind of belonged in. And it made so much sense to me. And I loved how he was doing all this research and everything was science based. And I just first read of the stories that were incredible. They were truly like what he describes as 4 minute miles. So, 4 minute mile being no one ever could run a mile in 4 minutes until one person did it. And afterwards, many others were able to run a mile in 4 minutes. And that's what's happening with this work. So, there were people, they were changing their beliefs, their perceptions. They were changing their subconscious through the meditations that he uses. And all of a sudden they were able to cure themselves of many different diseases that were never able to, do this before. But it wasn't just a miracle, it was actually kind of a process. And they were discovering the science behind this process, like what is actually happening behind the scenes, to what I love that he says, demystify the mystical. So it grasped me, and I just wanted to learn more and more about the work. And I know I bought the progressive and intensive workshop online. And I would just sit there with my computer making notes. I wanted to grasp everything he said because for me, it just felt like I was hearing truth. And it was a very beautiful time because I think in the first time after reading You Are the Placebo, I felt hopeful. I felt really hopeful that I was able to cure this because I read of many other people who have been able to cure their diseases or, yeah, in my idea, much worse circumstances than what I was living. I also started doing the work, as he calls it, because just reading the books alone, I knew that I had to actually do it. I had to sit with myself, do these meditations that he recommends, because at the end of the day, this is about changing, not about, wanting the healing. I remember the first time I heard Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation. And I remember that I told my sister, like, no, this is so scary. Like, the voice is so strange. It's not, super sweet at all. And I just had to really get used to it because it's a total different meditation from what I was, seeing regarding as meditation before. So if you would go on YouTube and you would like a calming meditation, 10 minute, it would just all be peaceful and super sweet. But Dr. Joe Dispenza was like, no, you sit up straight and we're gonna do this and this and this. And I had to get used to that. But now after doing it for so many years now, I honestly don't want to go back because I know now it works so well. And I love how they do the research on knowing what all the things they say, he says in the meditation, what they actually do to your brain. I love that they're figuring this out because then they even optimize the meditations. It's really awesome. So I started doing the work. I started doing the meditations and I got very engaged in it. I just loved it. I was watching all of his YouTube. I was watching podcasts he was in. He just had me hooked because I felt I was listening to truth and it was just so hopeful and optimistic. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like that we as a humanity were going forward in such a beautiful way and that our future was looking so bright. Whereas if you are watching the news or like in general society, I think many people are like, oh, we're just everything's going down or we have all these problems. But I felt now I kind of supported in no, 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 the future is actually looking bright and it's up to us to create it. And it felt very empowering and also very stimulating to start thinking about what I wanted to contribute to this future or and also what my future wanted to look like. So I got very engaged in the whole focusing on my future aspect. And I was still experiencing the headaches, by the way. But I noticed that I got less and less attention to worrying about when my next headache will be or if I could plan this or this day because, I could be in bed all day because of the headache. I was less occupied with the current situation and more focused on the future, on creating this future vision and also sticking with the meditations because I heard so often in all of the stories of transformation and all of the people who talk about their healing that it was all about sticking with it, doing it every day, even the hardest days and overcoming yourself. So I knew like this is just a process and we're going to do it. And there was no question around it in my mind because I heard all of these people say this, which really helps. So I was just sticking with the meditations. I obviously was still struggling with headaches and combining my life together, but things were starting to get better. And I started to feel more hopeful, more enthusiastic, more love for life. And I noticed one time, I was like, I don't remember the last time I had the headache. When was it? And I just completely noticed that I had forgotten about it. Like it wasn't a big huge moment where like boom they were gone. No, it just like they would come but less often, less intense. They would just like be manageable. Like all of these things happened along the way while I was not focusing on them. And that is the most fascinating part to me. Like at the end of the day, I was more occupied with who do I want to be in the future? What does my future look like? What does my dream look like? That I forgot all about the past. And, why is this headache there? Do I have unresolved trauma? All of these questions. No, I just didn't give any attention to that. And in hindsight, I think that that's what made all the difference. Becoming so obsessed with your future life that you disregard your current or your past, and where your focus goes, your energy flows. So my focus was obviously towards the future and not towards the past. Oh, that's beautiful insight for me that I got from this. And obviously, I was getting happier, getting healthier. Many things in my life were improving along the way, not just the headaches. I found I got better relationships. I knew better who I wanted to be. I felt more meaning in life. All these beautiful things were happening to me because I was finally really doing the work. So I look back on the journey now, kind of happy that I had it. happy for the days where I felt like something's wrong with me. This is never going to change. Because if I wasn't so miserable then, I don't know if I would have given it everything I had in the meditations and when I was discovering this work. So, in a way, I feel it was necessary for me to break through a certain pattern to really change and to transform. So, I can now look back on it with gratitude, and that's really special to me because back then I never thought that would happen. I really hope that if there's a part of you that says, I'm happy for you, but I don't think it's for me, that you question yourself with that limiting belief, because I know now that there are so many more things possible. And I also want to mention that all of this happened before going to an event of Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I was doing the meditations at home. I was watching the progressive at home. I watched it, I think, 2 or 3 times, making notes. You don't have to go to a retreat to experience this work. It's really all what you're doing yourself. If you get absolutely absorbed in it, if you want to watch all of his YouTube, all of his podcasts, everything that's out there, then you know you're on the right path because you need to get this lust for life again. And that's definitely what I got from his work. And I appreciate him so much for it. I also want to note that I did go to 2 of his week-long retreats after all of this happened. And what I saw there was absolutely magical. I know that there is so much more possible in this world than we were born to believe, or not, maybe not born, but we were shaped to believe in our upbringing. And it is definitely worth exploring this. Like, definitely worth exploring this. There's so much more to your life, and you could feel all these positive emotions so much in such bigger, intenser ways. I truly know that it's all about whether or not we change. And if we change, we everything in our life changes. It's now almost 3 years later since I first discovered his work, and I barely have to deal with any headaches anymore. They're just not part of who I am. I think I stepped into my future self with the work he does, with all the meditations, and my future self is happy and healthy and thriving and doesn't have to lay in bed with headaches. I hope that this video was helpful for you and that you believe a little more in your future now than in the limitations of your current or your past. Thank you for watching. Bye.